There we go.
Do you see me?
I don't see you, Rosie. I'd
Oh,
love,
man.
well, I'd love to know if other people can see you. That's all that matters. If other people can see you, this is the first of the Trickster. So if you could just write in the comment section if you can see Rosie Aronson, then that's great. You can let me know. Thank you. And we will begin this call, get started straight away, have some fun with the Tricksters and the Dream Arc. And
Okay.
good, somebody sees you. Yeah,
Someone
awesome. People
sees.
see you. I just don't see you, Rosie. I just hear you.
Oh, oh
So,
my God. And I even showered for this, Matthew.
oh, good. Well, then everybody can see that.
But you can't. You're missing out on my show. Okay, good. So people, and everybody sees Matthew too, correct? Let's get that. Can you
Yeah, I'm
see
guessing
Matthew?
they see me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good.
I think we can just get going. We can trust
All
this is
right.
Trickster Medicine 101 coming my way. So I just get to look at my face for the next hour while Rosie talks, and at least I can hear your voice. That's the main thing. So welcome
Okay.
everybody. You're here for the Dream Arc. You're here for the Tricksters. Let's get this thing going. And
And
Rosie, do you want to take it away?
I will take it away. I'm also very, very happy to be here together with Matthew in honor of this month's very relevant theme, Sacred Disruptors, which we're already experiencing. And for those of you, just most of you know about the Dream Arc, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But for those of you who aren't so familiar with the Dream Arc, there are 12 groupings of animals that are all connected to overarching archetypal themes like the warriors and the hunters and the unifiers and the healers and the leapers and the messengers. And this month, like Matthew said, we're going to be really doing a dive into the tricksters. So, as we did before, when preparing for our call, Matthew and I went to the DreamArc's Tricksters Oracle to draw 3 trickster animals for the sake of everybody. And we're going to be sharing them with all of you and do a little co-contemplating and invite you to join us. But first, we thought we'd start with a question for those of you who are here or who are going to be joining us sometime in the future. And we're wondering if anybody here happens to be experiencing a part of your life or an aspect of the world that feels like it is being turned upside down right now. And in terms of the larger world, unless you're living in an extremely peaceful place and being really disciplined about staying away from the news, it is likely impossible not to feel like all manner of shit is hitting the fan. We may not even be on the brink of World War III. We may actually be deep inside of it right now. And it's not just one war, it's many wars, including the mounting culture wars that seem to be splintering humanity into more and more opposing groups and agendas and worldviews. And I'm not even going to mention the emergence of the shadow side of AI, which is making it harder to even know what's real and what's manipulation. And so while global and civil wars are breaking out and more people are turned into refugees and institutions that we've relied on are falling apart, a lot of us are simultaneously experiencing unexpected upheavals in our personal lives as well, as if the collective chaos wasn't enough. So maybe you're like me, right? And a job that you've held or a role that you've loved and played and identified with is shifting or changing or dissolving, and you're being asked to let go before you're quite sure of what's coming next. Or maybe you're experiencing a sudden change in one or more of your primary relationships, right? Like with a partner or a dear friend or a mentor or your colleagues, a community. And you find yourself having to set boundaries or ask for help when you normally would prefer to do it by yourself, or speak truths that maybe aren't so easy to say. Or maybe one of your long held beliefs or spiritual orientations or practices is just kind of cracking open or falling short in relationship to the changing reality of your life. I'm just giving you some ideas here. Maybe you're experiencing an unexpected loss or an illness or some kind of rupture that's actually revealing to you the fact that there may be aspects of your life that have been or maybe have become more unsustainable than you were even aware of. Or maybe you keep feeling this creative calling tugging at you, one that you can't ignore, even though it feels totally impractical or inconvenient or doesn't make any logical sense. Just know that whatever you're experiencing, so many of us right now are being asked to face the unexpected and to let go of old ways of being, old assumptions, old comforts. We're in a trickster moment, like a global initiation. And while it can feel so disorienting and scary, it can also be a very powerful invitation to kind of reimagine everything. So, as many of you know, I'm in a giant trickster moment as I'm leaving my role as head of Dream Arc at the Gene Keys and taking a very unexpected leap into a new chapter where I'm going to be nurturing and bringing to life the Dream Arc and the Gene Keys in new ways and to younger humans through the Universal Love Curriculum. I did not see that coming. But I'm really learning to lean into this trickster moment with deepening trust and an openness to being happily surprised and blessed by everything that is emerging from it. And so I'm curious to hear from others, including you, Matthew. I know you can't see me, but perhaps you're hearing me. And I'm wondering if you're feeling it. And anybody listening, please free to let us know about, any trickstery kind of thing you're experiencing right now in the chat. How are the tricksters showing up for you? What's flipping upside down? And Matthew, do you feel inspired to share anything with us? I see you. We all see you. So
That's good. That's good. There's so many stories that I've told here before, so I don't want to repeat, but they've sort of involved this trickster medicine. And you spoke to AI, you spoke to so many of the things that are going on in the world at this time, and trickster, it's showing up in so many different places in so many different ways for us, and to be able to pay attention and to look out for it and to notice it. And so often when people play with this idea of the trickster energy as well, they're like, hey, I'm the trickster, I'm coming in, I'm here shaking things up. And I'm always thinking about how trickster medicine, trickster is not one that it can change sides, right? It doesn't stick with the same thing all the time. And so it can also be working towards us. Trickster medicine can turn inwards. Think of Wile E. Coyote and all those Acme cartoons, and Wile E. Coyote is working with Roadrunner and trying to set all these traps, and they turn in on itself. And so trickster medicine is unpredictable. It brings us the unexpected. We've been experiencing lots of the unexpected. I think too, as we dive more into these three creatures that we're working with today, you'll see the different flavors and different ways in which the trickster shows up as well. And so you might have more of an idea, because trickster can come in through the back door. Trickster can come in through, means like somebody that, that has been deemed an ally for such a long time could suddenly flip on a dime or something like that. And so many different ways in which it can show up. And so love to explore this with everybody here today. These three creatures that we're working with today, they were the same three we called forth in the Gazelle newsletter as well. So you can also experience them there a bit as well. And so, yeah, there's, I've been witnessing trickster medicine happening in other people's lives as well at this time. And I have seen examples of where people have proudly held this idea of being the trickster, only to find that something upturns in their own life in doing so. So I just say, as we enter into this, really being open to the unexpected and not predicting what trickster might be or our role as trickster, because it's unwily, it's wily in that way. I can't even
it's
say it.
wily. It's wild and wily and calls for humility.
Yeah,
It's so much about
exactly.
what we are not in control of, including our trickstery intentional selves. Very good. Very good. Well,
Yeah.
I'm thinking before we share the specific tricksters that we pulled from the Oracle, I'll share about the category directly from the Codex, from the poetic pen of Richard, just to get us more warmed up to like, who are the tricksters, right? Okay. So this is, I got my notes here. So this is from Richard Rudd in the Dream Arc Animal Codex. We are the tricksters, a raggedy bunch are we. We delight in turning things upside down. We revel in the unexpected and the surprise, the shock, the irreverent. To us, nothing is sacred. We love to mock you, not to hurt you on purpose, but to show you the extent of your attachments and your seriousness. We come in many forms, some obvious, some less obvious, but we all come as agents of the Great Mother. We do not come necessarily to increase your joy or to make you laugh. That might be the laughers. Ours is a serious task to initiate you. When one of us comes into your life, it's for the purpose of inversion. We represent the opposition. So if you're too relaxed, we come to increase the creative tension in your life. And if you're too stressed, we come to slow you down. The world is filled with tricksters, thieves, villains, rogues, charlatans. We come to show you the truth behind the veil, that all such beings and behaviors are here for our awakening. Whenever you are on the receiving end of such a journey, you are in fact in the presence of a disguised blessing. Our job is to help you see this blessing and bring in its harvest. Be wary of us tricksters, for if you invite us in, we may bring chaos in our wake. We are the shaker-uppers. We are your nemesis. We are the cosmic joke in animal form, and we are here to serve you at all times. Woo! So this is pure medicine for me, I gotta say, and it's so good to be reminded that the trickster moments in our lives don't come to punish us. They come to burst the bubbles that need bursting. They come to mess with the plans that are no longer aligned with our soul's deepest needs, even if our personality doesn't quite get it yet. And to really shake loose those like rigid parts of us that take everything so, so seriously. And sometimes tricksters come in gently. Other times they run us over like a frickin' truck. But usually, eventually, definitely not usually at the start, we can find a hidden gem, a hidden gift, if we choose to. I have this like dear friend who's also a Dream Arc contributor. Her name is Erica Elliott. She's a doctor who always says, never waste a bad experience. And that is like a total trickster inspired attitude. So let's start with our first trickster in the trio who popped out when we consulted the Oracle. And our first one is the Ladybug. And I'll read a little bit from the Codex, and then we can explore its guidance together. And just so you know, the Ladybug is a fear key. And according to the Codex, it's related to the fear of success. And for those of you who are interested, its two Dream Arc partners are the Roadrunner and the Otter. And its corresponding gene key is the 46th. Okay, so this is from Richard. I totally forgot to take my cards out, Matthew. I wanted to hold the cards out today, but anyway. All right, here we go. I am Ladybird. If I've landed on your hand, then you are in for a ride. Often when I appear, it is because something is falling apart. In this respect, I'm a trickster because I will show you in time that what is causing you such pain now will one day be something you're grateful for. You humans really do not understand luck. You think it's the same as success, but good fortune often comes dressed up as failure. Learn to let go, and I will reveal my true good fortune. You will return over and over and meet your loved ones again and again in a myriad different forms. So quit being so serious and expand your view. You have an eternity of time to flower. My lesson is to learn to love the moment, love your life as it is, give yourself to the experience 100%. Whatever wants to fall apart, let it fall apart. Whatever wants to resprout, let it grow. Do not be afraid of beginning again. Do not be afraid of being truly happy. Travel lightly as I do. Die when you die. And in the meantime, love and live and love. Woo! So that about says it all. And the first thing that comes to me when I listen to Ladybug or Ladybird guidance is that old Chinese folk story. And if you've heard this one, Matthew, about that man who loses his horse. And everyone says, oh no, what horrible luck. And then the horse comes back with another horse. And everyone says, oh my God, that's so lucky. And then the man's son is riding on the horse and falls off of it and breaks his leg. And everybody says, oh, that's horrible luck. And it goes on. And each time the old man simply just says, well, we'll see, or who can say what's good or bad luck. And I think at one point, because the boy breaks his leg, the rest of the men in the community get sent off to war, and he is spared from that war because he has broken his leg, right? So I just thought of that when I was reading the tricksters and the ladybug. And just to take an example of that story and how it's playing out in my life at the moment. So as I said, I'm kind of in the process of leaving my role as Dream Arc Steward at the Gene Keys, a place that I've called home and have poured my heart into for years. And this change wasn't something I saw coming, like I said. So I've been moving through my share of sadness and grief, which I shared about in a recent YouTube transmission with Matthew that we did together called Telepathy in the Dream Arc. And you're certainly welcome to check that out. But over the past couple of months, as I've surrendered more and more to what's been happening, something else has been kind of growing inside of me, which is this deepening sense of trust that this unexpected turn might be the very thing that allows the Dream Arc and the universal love curriculum, or through that curriculum, to flourish in ways that I couldn't have predicted or even made happen under my current circumstances or in my current role. So somehow I might be able to serve the work more freely from outside of the company. And while finding all kinds of new and inspiring ways to stay connected to Matthew and all of you and my dear friends and colleagues from the Gene Keys team and the whole community, right? I can do all of that. But that doesn't mean that I don't have my very understandable trickster moments when I forget and I doubt and I fall into a fear space, or I have the thought that maybe something has gone terribly wrong here. And that's when I need my friends, who include Matthew, and these days also includes beings like the ladybug, right? Who's constantly reminding me that what I've been taught to believe is success can actually be a trap, that what I've been taught to believe is a failure might just be a second chance, one that I've been waiting for without even knowing it. And as Richard writes, the ladybug comes when things fall apart. And she says, let it fall apart. Let it simplify. You have no idea what's being made possible. You know, she's inviting all of us to love our lives as they actually are, not as we hope that they would be, not necessarily how we plan for them to be, and then to just welcome whatever wants to regrow. And then on a completely different note, but connected to Ladybug, it's actually shown up in my life over the past maybe year plus in relation to my dad, who died over a year ago now. And right around the time of his passing, and literally ever since, it's kind of crazy, my whole family and our family's extended circle started receiving visitations by two animals, the cardinal, the bird, and the ladybug, or the ladybird. Then both of them are red and black, which I think is kind of interesting. And exactly a year after he passed, my sister, my mom, and I gathered on Zoom for a small ceremony to honor my dad. And right in the middle of it, in the middle of winter, a ladybug just like dropped down in front of my sister in her apartment out of nowhere. And of course, I had to grab the Dream Arc Codex, and I read the ladybug's message, and we just stared at each other, and we laughed and we cried, because it wasn't just that the message from the ladybug was perfect for that moment. It was also so my dad, like just something he would so say to us, because all three of his girls, he calls us his gulus, we can tend to be too serious, you know, for our own good. And we always feel like so responsible for everyone and everything, rarely taking a break. So the ladybug didn't just tell us to hold life more lightly, which was a message we really needed to hear, but it also reminded us that we're all going to return over and over again to meet our loved ones, including our beloved Papa, again and again. So thank you to my dad and the ladybug. I just keep being reminded that grief and grace can sit side by side, that endings are not really endings, right? The ones that we love and the parts of ourselves or our passions or beloved projects, even if they feel like they're coming to an end or on their way out, always find a way, if they are correct for us, to return to us, just in a different form. Okay, so that is my share about the ladybug. And Matthew, I'm just wondering if there's anything you want to share that you feel inspired to share, or if you want to take us to our next trickster or whatever. I feel for you, because you just have to listen to me and you can't see me. It's harder to engage in a conversation that way. It's easy when you're on the phone and it's all audio, but you're kind of both video and audio, and that's a weird mix. So anyway, I just want to open the space up for you if you'd like it.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, it is strange for me, I have to say. It's like
Yeah,
I wish I could see your face.
I
Um,
know.
but I'm listening to it all, and yeah, I can think of so many times in my life where things have fallen apart, fallen away that I thought were, especially things that were really felt like my dreams coming true and watching them fall apart, only to realize that they are actually pointing me towards something very different and much more authentic to who I am. And so I can really relate to that. And just the other week, my wife, who's been going through some big changes and letting go, there was one point where she had a ladybug right on her crown. It was just sitting on top of her crown. And, she's been going through this big letting go, and it was a very uncertain and unknown process, kind of like what you've been going through. And, it's like it's easy for us to look back with 2020 vision, 2020 hindsight, right? At these events that have played out. I can look back at the big events that seem like these radical changes and radical losses in my life, and I can see how much more aligned my life is now, but actually going through them, it's very challenging. And so to have these creatures that come in that remind us to just remember, remember not to take life as seriously as we do it sometimes, and to not be so attached to the outcome, and to remember that we come back again and again and again to do this journey of life, I think is really important to remember. But I won't say much more on the ladybug in that way. I haven't had any personal experience with it recently. But really feeling that message is probably applicable to a lot of people. I know people who have been going through being let go of their, I met somebody the other week just fired from his job unexpectedly, and big changes that are coming through for him, and others that have been going through health crises. And to work with these creatures and to find that support in this time um, is really important. So yeah, I think that's what I'll share about the ladybug at the moment.
Wonderful. So do you want to take us to the next creature? The next.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go to the magpie. I think that's what we're looking at next. So the magpie, this is a creature I don't see here too often, but I have lots of fond memories of them. And growing up in England, the last two times I visited England, the first creature that I encountered both times was a magpie, that beautiful black and white bird, that thief in the night, the divine thief. And so, yeah, I'll read the magpie's medicine and then can sort of explore that a little bit more with you all. And would love to hear from people if you've come across magpie, if you've encountered magpie in any recent moments. I am the magpie, a divine thief am I. I come to teach you the art of how to steal truth. To be a great thief, you must study your victim in depth. Where do you feel a victim? Take that question in. Where do you feel a victim? Where do you feel any self-pity? Where do you place any blame outside of yourself on your loved ones, your enemy, the government? Dig now until you find a crack in the wall of your heart. When you have found this place, this victim place, write it down as a word or words. Now you have a plan. You can get to work transmuting it. Now break into your heart and forgive yourself this thing. Forgive and let go of your need to project any responsibility outside of yourself for any perceived problem. There is nothing under the sun that is the fault of anyone. All is as it is intended. Steal your empowerment back from this victim pattern. Take time with this process. Give it at least a week of your contemplation until you have found a nugget of gold. Write down again what this nugget of gold represents for you. Now you have found freedom. Use this experience to go on hunting for more places in your psyche where you feel you could be better. Let go of self-improvement and move into deeper and deeper self-acceptance. Use the art of contemplation of the means of cleansing your inner house of all objects that distract you from your higher purpose. Study the art of contemplation and enact it until you experience the magical power of pivoting. the moment when you steal the truth from your false self and experience a genuine opening. Do not you bring your focus onto anything else on the spiritual path until you have experienced this breakthrough. Be single pointed as I am. Never waver from my target until it is in my beak. Be utterly focused, and magic will open deeper and deeper in your heart. This is not a game for people interested in shiny objects. This is a real practice. Do it. And so I think this one's a potent one in terms of turning us. This is a vision key. This is the bird. The birds in the dream arc, they're always these vision keys. And so often we associate them with the cities if we're looking at the gene keys. And the magpie then is this vision of alchemical reward as one of the tricksters related to the 23rd gene key. The city of quintessence is what people might imagine it to be connected to. And his dream arc partners are the sheep and the scarab. And so these are the three creatures that connect to the 23rd gene key. And so this divine thief, this is how we often see the trickster, as this divine thief. You'll hear it, a few of them referred to as thieves. And where do we feel a victim? Like thinking of something that's happened in our life recently, perhaps even today, where somebody did something to us or somebody said something to us, or that we're stewing over something from the past where we're still feeling like we're a victim of that situation and of that experience. And when we notice that, I've really played with this idea throughout my work with the gene keys and the dream mark over all of these years, because it's like this idea that anytime I'm experiencing a shadow state, there is a victim within there. And so it's like, where is that? I think you asked it here too, is like, but where is the victim hiding? Right? So where am I feeling like a victim and I'm not even aware of it? If I'm in this shadow, what am I feeling like a victim of in this moment? And then to be able to give attention to that and not to project it out. I did the whole thing of blame and complain in my life where it was like, blame the government, blame this, blame that. And to be able to really fully take that back from even these big things going on in the world, like the macrocosm and the microcosm are so deeply interwoven that there's magic in being able to recognize that victim pattern with inside of ourselves and to acknowledge it, and to not blame another for it, to not blame ourselves for it either, because that's where I went in the past, is I wouldn't blame others, so then it'd say, oh, it must be my fault, and I blame myself. And so this is where the magpie is inviting that deep forgiveness, to forgive ourselves for this way of being in the world, to notice, to catch ourselves, oh, I'm blaming here, I'm blaming another, what's in this for me, and not to blame myself, but to recognize, okay, there's something going on in this situation that is value to me. And then also when I catch myself complaining about things and about people and about the world, it's like, okay, where am I experiencing the victim inside of myself, and how do I relate to that when in others as well, and working with others? And so it's really this divine thief that is the magpie, I think, brings in this potent kind of experience and lesson. And in the same way you were looking at the black and the red, look at this as this is one of the black and white creatures, and where are we looking at life through the lens of black and white, of wrong and right, and all of that, and to be able to receive its wisdom. So that's kind of what's alive for me here, and definitely even in the last few weeks, noticing where I can feel like some shadow experience arising in my being. It's like, yeah, what is that? What am I feeling here? What am I a victim of the past? Am I a victim of my expectations? Am I a victim of my desires? Am I a victim of my environment? There's so many different ways we can explore that. And I think it's a great question that the magpie comes in and asks us. So yeah, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, Rosy.
Oh, yes, I do. I'm just also I love that you brought out the black and whiteness of the magpie, and, victimization doesn't see a nuance. And thank you too for
Mhm.
like offering us so many options. It's like it's a buffet of how many ways we can feel victimized and
Yeah.
including victimizing ourselves. So yeah, I mean, okay. I just want to say, have you seen the Detectorists? It's a
No.
British show about these two guys. You know, they have those, what are those things? They're like these machines that you go over the land and you can kind of discover like metals, rare metals under the earth. What is that called? So that's what these guys do. Anyway, I
Right.
recommend this TV show. I know Richard loves it too. It's British. It is great, and the magpie plays a very important role in this show. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say. But personally, I can say that the magpie has really been working me. Without getting into the details, I can say that not very long ago, I received some very tough feedback from somebody that I love and respect during a very sensitive conversation. And one of the things that I was told was that I was in denial about my feelings and my impact. And of course, it's always hard to know how to respond to that specific kind of feedback if it doesn't resonate without proving it right, right? Like in the sense, if I say, no, I'm not in denial, that means, of course, I'm in denial about being in denial. But anyway, in that moment, I felt really misunderstood and unfairly labeled. And if I'm honest, I felt victimized, right? I did. And I sat with it during the conversation and after the conversation and really like worked the magpie. Like, so instead of pushing it away, I let myself turn inward and really like explore the ways that I've sometimes been in denial of my feelings, right? I looked for my blind spots, which is a trickstery kind of task in the first place, not always easy to do because they're blind spots. But I owned what I could. And then like
Mhm.
I've done so many times before, which is kind of like what Matthew was referring to before. Like I kept owning and then I kept on owning until it became, you know, very heavy. Like I was taking on maybe a little bit more than what was actually mine and making myself responsible for everyone and everything, which is essentially connected to that pattern I was talking about earlier, that I think my dad from the other side is wanting to help me with, this tendency to internalize blame, you know, and victimize myself a lot. So it's finding that balance between, okay, what is my part of any interaction, but I'm not the total cause of every dynamic that arises between me and other people. So when I realized that I was taking this ownership thing a little too far, something kind of shifted in me. And then I had a great and very helpful conversation with you, Matthew, where, like a true trickster, you kind of turn the whole idea of denial upside down for me. And you asked me, well, where in the situation, Rosy, might you be denying yourself? Like denying your gifts, denying your value, denying your voice, denying your true power, your authority, right? And just like that, the magpie just kind of flew in through Matthew's invitation, not to steal something from me, but to help me steal something back that I had temporarily given away, which was my empowerment in that moment. And I realized then too that if I had been denying my power or value or voice or needs for some time, then it is possible that my truth had a way of coming out sideways or in distorted ways, which could have been reflected in that feedback, like a constructive aspect of the feedback that I received. So, like, for example, like when we, generally speaking, when we finally set a boundary, right, it can land very hard because we've been waiting way too long to speak up or to even acknowledge that we had a limit in the beginning, right? Or that some boundary had been crossed too many times, right? Or an essential need hasn't been met for too long in the first place, right? So that moment of reclaiming something deeper in myself kind of cleared the ground for something even more self-honest, something that felt real, that I could own in a more healthy way, that was also self-honoring without denying my own experience or perspective or valid feelings either. So I thought that was like a really good, like, personal example of like a moment where I felt victimized. I used that to turn against myself. I victimized myself. A trickster came in through a friend and helped me kind of see the whole thing from a different perspective that allowed me to kind of honor myself and course correct around being hard on myself, and then actually allowed me to take the the useful part of the feedback that I had received, without self-destructing in the meantime or swallowing the whole thing whole. So that was my little magpie story that I wanted to share. So Matthew, I
I
don't know if
love
there's
it.
something you want to add to that, or you want to take us to the next animal, but
No, I love
that
that story. I love that story. And I think it's so important for all of us to be able to look at that and how we can use the trickster medicine in that way to, that's the thing is like when we hear about the unexpected, we might be guarded against like what's going to happen and something bad going to happen. But sometimes is trickster coming in and saying, yeah, you're really hard on yourself. Here's what happens if you soften. And here's, like let's empower you. So trickster brings the medicine that's needed. And so that's
Mhm.
what I'm loving hearing in your share there. And something else just too about this with the victim patterns is like just to be open to them. That's what I was saying earlier as well. This like where is the victim hiding? Because it can hide sometimes really well. And we look at these different states of where we feel like a victim, and we might not even recognize that we see that as being a victim. Like we might feel very strongly about certain beliefs that we hold in the world, and the trickster can come around and shake that up, and we don't realize that we're a victim of our own beliefs,
Mm.
right? We don't realize that we've been a victim of our own beliefs, or we've just been so used to being attempting to control everything that we don't recognize that even when we're in control and things seem to be held together, that we're actually a victim of the need for control in that situation,
It's so
right?
true.
So it's like, oh, and it's all gone. And so, it's really interesting to be able to just be open to that, to where is the victim, like what could that be. And there's a beautiful thing you can find online. We don't have the link here, but if you go online, it's the 64 victim patterns of the gene keys, which could complement this very well, this contemplation. And I often have people just like, even if it's not in your chart, just scan through here and what's hitting right now, what's your body saying, oh yeah, I resonate with that because it feels uncomfortable. And it could be one of these different, like I love my solitude so much, but how maybe I haven't realized I'm actually isolating myself at times, and that I'm actually feeling like I'm a victim of isolation in some way. And so it can be really subtle. And that's why the trickster medicine is so helpful and so potent and so powerful, because these things can be hidden from our own sight. They can be invisible to us, and it just helps us to see it. And so, the magpie is a great one in that way. So thank you for sharing your story, and having something so fresh and such a potent example, I think is really good for people too.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
happy to offer up my very uncomfortable life. So Matthew, were you going to take us to our next creature?
Yeah. Should we go Foxy? I like that we
Let's go, Foxy.
I like that we brought Fox into this and that it's coming in right at the end here. So, the Fox medicine is such a beautiful one, and my last experience going to England actually and being part of the Gene Keys event in England at London there, it was sandwiched between so many experiences with Fox and Fox medicine, and it was the last creature that I saw as I left England last time, and so I've got a love of Fox and also appreciation for when it shows up, as like it comes with a pretty potent message, I think. And shall I read the message from the guidance
Yeah.
from the Fox? Or did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so for anybody wondering, the Fox, again, one of these tricksters. It's the life key of sacred artfulness. Think of the different ways. I think there's a version even of, is it Oliver Twist or something, where a fox is what plays the cartoon character of the Artful Dodger, or in the different ways in which the cunning fox shows up in our stories. Anyway, its partners are the merlin, which is kind of like a falcon-like bird, associated with magic, and the chameleon, that shapeshifter. So you can kind of get an idea. They're all three tricksters. All three of them are tricksters, and they're related to the 26th gene key, which is kind of known as the sacred trickster. Rosy knows this one very well because it's her purpose gene key. And so it can be one that's very close to home for her. And it's one that I've really played with quite extensively in my life too. And it's always interesting what comes. So Fox is adaptable, changeable, malleable, paradoxical. So that's what we're looking to recognize when we embrace the Fox medicine.
Mm.
And we've talked a little bit about this already. That which you hold sacred, I will upturn it in a great crash in the middle of the night.
Mm.
That which you hold vile or evil, I will set upon an altar and show you how precious it is. Whichever way you see things, I will set it on its side. You had better beware if I have stepped into your circle. This is for everybody, even if you just popped on in this very moment, right? If you've stepped into the circle at this moment, maybe this is something that the fox is here for. Your intolerance of certain things or views or people is only due to one thing. You cannot see the secret behind the behavior or the manifestation. If you knew, for instance, that the person who performs a terrible deed once had that very deed done to him or her, perhaps even in a past existence, wouldn't it change the way that you saw that person? The seed of evil is always forced upon the innocent, the pure, the sweet, and the kind. If it had happened to you, you would have done the very same. We cannot forgive because we cannot see. If you can look deeply into nature and see behind the forms of this world, you will discover these secrets, and then you will come to understand the thing that you call evil is in you as well. Pushed to the extreme, you too would become that. This is the view I offer. To work with Fox, you're invited to contemplate those things in people you find offensive and abhorrent. Let's be really honest with ourselves with that. Is there anybody that comes to mind when you think of offensive and abhorrent? Look deep within, peel back the illusion of the ugly, and you will see the puer aeternus, the immortal, innocent child hidden within. Learn to look at the world in this way. Leave nothing or no one untouched. Anywhere you see negativity, look deeper until you find the spirit and higher purpose, until you realize that is you. Out of this profound, compassionate understanding, your entire life's work will unfold. And then look at the things you find special, your gods, your gurus, your holy objects and places. Are they any more worthy than the lowest of the low? Is not the holiest place the one where you find the greatest disease, distaste, and suffering? Go to such places, internally and perhaps even externally. Meditate there. Offer sacred ablutions in such places where spirit has been forgotten. In supermarkets, in slums, in toilets and petrol stations. That's gas stations for Americans. Offer kindness to the dejected. Look at life with new eyes. Allow yourself to be utterly transformed. Turn your life upon its head. Then and only then may you count yourself as a clan member of the Fox clan. Welcome to our world. There we go. Fox, and I've got a short story I can share around that. I mean, I could share many different stories, but I think that as somebody that carries the fourth gene key in my profile, which carries the shadow of intolerance and the gift of understanding, there have been many people in my life that I've had this powerful lesson from. The ones that I have had an intolerance of or a lack of understanding of, perhaps. And even within my own family circles, one family member in particular, a few generations older, that many had felt trouble with and challenged with and would complain about, actually, or would feel wounded by and feel a victim of. And so this person is somebody I had to bring deep into my own heart and really welcome them in and seek to understand them. And I would be gifted these moments where there'd be these stories I would just hear about them and just the life they had when they were a child. And it just completely shifted my perspective because I could only imagine how would I have responded in that same situation? What would I have learned? How would I have learned to protect myself? Now, this doesn't mean I don't have the boundaries and around these people if they are subjecting me to certain things in life, but to recognize and to understand and to have that. And this also happened with somebody that at one point was a real mentor to me, but then became a bit of a tormentor in many ways. And it became this real struggle and journey of forgiveness, which so many of these different tricksters have invited out today. And I remember going this process of I'd let go and moved away from a community because of this one person that was heading it. And it felt like it was just to me heading in not a very healthy direction, and did a lot of forgiveness. And when I stepped away, I just went through this healing journey of allowing myself to the anger, the frustration, and putting myself in their shoes. And eventually it came to this point where I had this dream one night when I'd felt like I'd kind of released it. I felt clear of it. There wasn't any attachment anymore in the same way. And that night I had a dream, and in the dream, I was dancing with this person. We were kind of doing this jig and having a lot of fun. And it just helped me to see that person in another light. There was that innocent child that the fox speaks to. But that took time. When I was going through the experience, I wasn't going to bypass the emotional parts of that in that way. But to see that it's like, wow, these people that come into our lives, that push our buttons, that test us, that challenge us, can really be some of the greatest gifts in the long term if we allow for it. Doesn't mean that we let them stay in our world. We need to have those healthy boundaries. But the trickster is known as the boundary crosser. If we've got certain boundaries in our life, it will bring us across those boundaries so that we can see what it's like to be on the other side and to flip things on its head. So Fox medicine for me is one of the really potent ones within the whole of the dream arc. And so if you invited in, if you stepped into the field with Fox today and you're resonating with its message somehow, it can be really, really potent to take it deep into your life and to look at, like it says, who is the person that you have, real struggle with tolerating, or the person that you would even the thing that you call evil is in you as well. Pushed to the extreme, you too would become that. And so, I think it's potent medicine for these times, like you said at the very beginning, where there's division, there's the wars going on, all this kind of thing. And the trickster medicine could come in when we project it. I mean, the devil, monotheistic traditions don't have a trickster. Polytheism is where we find the trickster, right? And so the way it showed up in the monotheistic ones was through the devil and things like that. But it's knowing that the difference is the trickster is amoral, it's not immoral, and it's here to serve us. And so welcoming trickster in that way can be really potent for us in these times, especially in a time when we see these monotheistic religions that are in real power struggles in the world. Perhaps trickster medicine is exactly what we all need to bring about a bit more harmony. So those are some of my thoughts on Fox. And it's still really awkward not seeing your face, Rosy. If I'm looking awkward, if I'm looking awkward in the eyes, it's because I'm just having to look at myself for the whole hour.
You're doing great. You're doing great. And I'm sure many other people are very interested in everything that you're saying. And I can share a little bit, but I'm wondering, maybe can you see the comments? Are there any comments that have come in that
Yeah.
let's just maybe just present some of those comments.
Yeah, it looks like we've got some from Safira. She's been recognizing where she's been a victim of her own beliefs recently. The fox came to her in a dream. I was fighting him, defending my rabbits. There we go. Interesting.
I had a big rabbit dream too the other day.
And rabbit's another trickster in the dream arc. So it's another trickster creature. That's related, for anybody in the gene keys, that's related to the 53rd gene key, moving from immaturity to expansion. And then Saphira continues saying, reading the meaning of the fox helped me understand my struggle with my emotions and beliefs around safety. So that's really great.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to include some voices, and oh my God. Oh my God. This stuff, it gets increasingly subtle, I think.
Yeah.
The older we
Hmm.
get, the deeper we get into the whole self-development world, and like the intolerance. Yeah, I'm just thinking about ultimately what you're saying. This is all about shadow integration. Like either that which we admire in another or that which we cannot tolerate points to a shadow inside of us, something that was forbidden, whether it was our light or something a little bit more distorted, um, or even just something powerful that we get, that we put under the carpet. And our job through the shadow integration, what the gene keys are all about, is to really discover those qualities inside of ourselves and shine a light on them so that they can transmute into their highest form. Because really, these qualities are, like you said, it's not immoral. It's, the qualities can be extremely beautiful, and often they're there to serve us. But it's when we try to repress them, when we judge them, when we don't tolerate them, they express themselves through distortion. And I was just thinking, for example, the shadow of intolerance, like in terms of my own growing up, and one of my biggest conditioning messages was to understand perpetrators. Like that's all I got. Like, it doesn't matter how people treat each other, they all come to who they are honestly. You just need to empathize more. You need to understand where they come from and why they're doing what they're doing. And so uh in a way, that was an amazing training, because it made me an extremely compassionate person. But in another way, I never learned how to have healthy boundaries, because I could always understand why people treated me the way that they did, because
Yeah.
they felt guilty, or they felt ashamed, or they were unconscious, they weren't doing it on purpose, or right. So I've kind of had to learn the shadow of tolerance. And then on the other side of that, I became intolerant of intolerance. Right,
Yes.
like like I couldn't understand people who couldn't understand people. And,
Yeah.
so I've been thinking a lot about this in the ways that, like, the fox has been nudging me lately, to look at those subtle lines, where I am still kind of separating out the sacred and the profane, or the enlightened and the
Mhm.
other. Like recently, again, I'm just bringing it back to Jack. But I'm in the midst of this big transition, and I caught myself in moments like really working hard to be the clear one, the fair one, the conscious one, the collaborative one, the one who was willing to communicate transparently, with nuance, with courage, with care, right? The one who could navigate everything with grace. But underneath that desire, right, which of course has a genuine healthy aspect to it. I don't want to over pathologize myself here. But there's also some shadow, right? There's some fear, right? Like the fear of losing so much that I've cared about, or the fear of being misunderstood. Oh my God, that has so much power over me, that one.
Mm.
But the fear of being seen as somebody who's capable of causing tremendous inconvenience for others, or being a burden or a drain on people that I love and want to serve and bring value to. And a super forbidden one for me is the fear of being the person who's capable of leaving, right? Like, it can look like I'm leaving the dream arc. Oh my God. Like, that is so forbidden for me. And something I have little, if any, experience doing, like being the one to leave, to step out of a place where I have been so devoted. There's been so much commitment. And then, of course, I've had a really big dose of fears of the parts of me that are too much, that are too messy, that are emotional, that are too human, that are too wordy. Me and my long emails. And so the fox has been like really helpful to me, especially during times when I've been too hard on myself, because it keeps whispering to me that that part of you is sacred too, Rosy, right? Whether it's the heartache that I felt that I needed to hide, or the tension that I've wanted to smooth out but couldn't, or the fact that I will never be fully understood by anybody, not even myself, you know, or the many shadows that I thought I'd already integrated. And it turns out, oh my God, they're still alive and kicking, and people are super annoyed with me, right? So the fox has gotten me to a place where I'm putting all of that on the altar, right? And it's reminding me that this is really where the work is. And that's actually why I plopped down on planet Earth in the first place, right? To like take it all and put it on the altar of my humanness. And I think that's the invitation for all of us. And speaking of invitations, I have 3 invitations inspired by our tricksters, but I want to hear if you have anything that you want to share about what I said or anything else before we go into the invitation closure piece of our talk today.
I think it was really good to hear that and remember that. You know, the trickster is about boundary crossing, and it's so meaning it's going to come into play when we're looking at the theme of boundaries in our life and remembering, recognizing where we've boundaried ourselves. We don't allow ourselves to express parts of ourselves. And, you know, there are boundaries that are healthy to have in relationships. And so if we're talking about the boundary crossing trickster, we're bound to come up with the theme of boundaries. Expect, especially if we have a bounding fox and a bounding rabbit bounding into our dreams. Mm-hmm.
Very, very true. So should I just bring the invitations out now?
Yeah. Yeah. So these are some invitations. Rosy always brings in these great questions. So if you're here, I'd invite you to just really cultivate these questions in your contemplations moving forward. Even if you forget everything else that we've talked about, you know, take these into your own lives, into your own contemplations at this time, because they'll be quite revealing, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And all right, so we've got 3 of them, one from each of the tricksters. Kind of imagine these tricksters are inviting us into these experiments. And if there was one trickster that especially resonated with you, then focus on that invitation so you don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Just think, oh yeah, it was magpie that I really could feel there. So then work with the magpie. All right. But we're going to start with the ladybug. And so the question is, where in your life is something unraveling, not to punish you, but to make space for something new or more true? And what are you still holding on to? It might be a plan, it might be a role, an identity, a hope that might really be ready to loosen its grip. All right, so those are the questions. And the invitation is, what if, like, just for a moment, you imagined yourself letting that go, whatever that thing is, and play with that idea of releasing it, kind of like a leaf floating down a stream. And what might emerge in the space that's left? It might be a feeling, a memory, a whisper from life about what's ready to take root next. You don't have to take a leap. That's not the invitation here. This is just an invitation to wonder. And in that wondering, to see what happens. So that's from the ladybug. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the magpie. And the question is, like, where in your life have you been giving away your power by blaming or over-owning or denying your deeper value? And what if, this is the invitation, instead of trying to fix yourself, you got curious about what you've been protecting or postponing? Like, what gift have you been denying, not out of failure, but out of habit or out of fear? And then let the magpie show you how to steal your power back. Again, not through force, but through forgiveness, often self-forgiveness, and clarity, and that quiet courage to stop apologizing for being who you are, like for being whole. So that's from the magpie. And now we're moving on to the fox. If you're drawn to the fox, the question is, where are you still dividing the world into spiritual and mundane, or good and bad, right and wrong, like the magpie, black and white, including inside of yourself? And the fox's invitation to you is to look again, like to place that thing that you've been judging or fearing or disowning or disapproving of on the altar of compassion, and to consider, what if that very part of you, the one that you most want to reject or fix, actually holds the key to your life's deepest purpose? And then let that sacred shapeshifter show you that wholeness includes all of it. And like literally, I actually have an altar and I am putting my shadows on that altar. So make this as specific and physical and real as you possibly can. So those are the three question invitations that we'd like to leave you with.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you to Safira, who's actually written the questions in the conversation here. At least in the live conversation, you'll be able to see it while we're still live. But in the replay, you probably won't be able to see them, but we'll put them in the comments section and we'll add them there. So thank you for that, Safira. And so the rest of you can see those questions.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say we also always take these live instas and we turn them into YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And so we'll do that too. And then in the description, we can put the questions there as well. Maybe. I don't know. You're looking up, Matthew. Does that mean maybe not?
No. We can do all that for sure.
I don't know what the rules are. Yeah.
What the rules are. We're the tricksters breaking the rules. Come on.
We're breaking the rules.
We're crossing the boundaries. Yeah. And just in conclusion to all this, thank you for those questions. And I invite people, really take those questions into your life. And, the dream arc itself for me is in many ways a trickster transmission. Like I enter into it, and whether I'm working with the laughers or with the unifiers or with the warriors or with the hunters, there's a little bit of trickster medicine because it's like I'm always discovering these unexpected things. Yes, the themes of those categories are there, but I think this is something, Rosy carries this trickster energy within her, whether she recognizes it or not, because of the 26th gene key is the sacred trickster, and this is her purpose sphere. And, it's bringing this into this in such a playful way, and there's a playfulness inside of the dream arc that is the dream arc. That if I've seen it again and again where people have maybe been stuck on a contemplation in their gene keys and they're thinking and they're contemplating, but nothing's coming through. And then they'll get an animal visitation. They'll go to the animal, look up the guidance, maybe that brings something, but then they take that next step and they'll go into a dive-in invitation in the Dream Arc course. And in that dive-in invitation, there's something that comes out of left field, so to speak, and they create something or they walk barefoot on the land and something pops through. But it is just that the trickster is saying, hey, if you're playing a lot of time in your left brain, I'm here to move you into the right brain and the unpredictable for some time as well. And so this is the magic for me of the Dream Arc course in this way. And I think this is a part of the unique flavor that Rosy, you bring as a co-creator of the Dream Arc here with Richard. And that it brings there's this element of playfulness when we can play with our shadows. We can bring them, we still meet with our shadows, but when it's a ladybug that comes and shows us her shadows, it's a different way of experiencing it than if it's just, maybe another human that we have a low tolerance of or something like that. It can be brought through in quite interesting ways. And so, if you're somebody that has looked at the dream arc a lot of people might look at a gene key, for instance, or look at a dream arc animal, shows up, and they'll look at which gene key that connects to, and they'll read the gene key book. But actually, if we attune to the wisdom of the dream arc itself, it can take us on a very right vein journey that takes us away from the thinking things through and allowing ourselves to experience the unexpected. So it's one big smorgasbord of trickster medicine, coupled with all these other amazing categories that are to be found in there. So I just wanted to share a little on that, Rosy, before we finish.
Wonderful, Matthew. Wonderful. So, hey, is there anything you want to announce before we say goodbye, or are we good?
Well, major announcements, of course. The Gazelle newsletter is out. That is our monthly newsletter where we feature one of these categories. It just so happens that we're featuring the Tricksters this time. If you want to go and acquaint yourself, if you're not in the Dream Arc course and you want to acquaint yourself with Ladybug, Fox, or Magpie, you can go and find out which one of them is going to support you, because we've got an oracle in there and you can find out which one supports you. And just to tell you, it's you just choosing becomes trickster in itself. So have fun with that. There's also some wisdom from Richard in there. There's an invitation from Rosy, an example of a dive-in invitation from Rosy that's there. It's a fun one that I've done before. I did a rabbit sketch from that one time and moved it around as Rosy was suggesting in the video, and suddenly I'm finding myself staring at a picture of Isis. So it was a fascinating experience for me. And so you can find that invitation. There's a interview with Rosy and Gustavo and Juanita talking about the Mindflow app, which is also a great tool for those of you working with your dreams and anything to do with the dream arc. And so you can find that all in the Gazelle newsletter. It should be linked in our bio. If not, it will be by the end of this recording, this live today. And so those are that. We've got if you are somebody who's curious about the dream arc but hasn't dived in, our clubhouse spaces are open to everybody. We have a clubhouse call in 2 days, Friday at 9 a.m. UTC. That's hosted by Allison, Katrini, and Mark, and they will facilitate a journey through the Tricksters. So if you have Trickster stories to share, there's an opportunity to share there and hear the other stories, and it'll keep this Trickster medicine alive in your life. And so we've kind of activated it here today, but continue if you've been curious, if you've stayed with this throughout the duration, or if you're watching the replay, we've invoked this archetype together, so you might want some extra support in understanding it. And so that's just one of the ways. Our clubhouse call, our Gazelle newsletter. You can always check out our YouTube channel, DreamArc YouTube channel. Got lots of videos on there. And yeah, and if you're curious about the course, you can go to thedreamarc.com. You can find out, you can discover your purpose animal there as well. But you can also find out how to sign up for this course and how to get involved in it. And then maybe you'll see myself, Rosy, and others on the inside there, inside of the community, the DreamArc community, where we hold DreamArc pod calls, dream pod calls, community calls, and much more. So yeah, I think that's it for me there about any announcements, unless I've forgotten something. Oh, there's going to be an interview coming up soon. We're going to be scheduling it, a release. Myself and Rosy interviewed Shannon Lee, daughter of Bruce Lee, who's very much a power unto her own. And we interviewed her about some of her work with the dream arc, the dragon, the snake, and her own creative expression. So that's something else to look forward to as well. So yeah, I think that's it, Rosy. Thank you.
Wonderful, Matthew. God, I just loved working with you so much, Matthew.
And you too. And I love it more when I can see your face. And I'm going to get that picked for next time. Tricksters be damned.
You did so well. I think I would have been extremely disoriented if I were in your position. You're natural.
I had moments of it.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us and hanging in there this whole time, and for being such amazing humans and just taking the dream arc into your heart, being open to life in the midst of this kooky time that we're all living in.
Yeah. And if you see ladybug, fox, or magpie, especially in the next 3 days, come back to the video replay and please let us know how you encountered it. I love hearing of those. They hadn't seen it beforehand, but it shows up afterwards. That's always good to hear. So let us know. No encounter is better than any other. They're all amazing.
So true.
All right. Thank you, Rosy. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you. Next Instagram Live will be July 25th.
Yes.
The long arc of trust. We'll see you here at that time.
Yes. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.